See who we got on here. All right. So, if you're joining us, make sure that you not only fill out the attendance, but that you also had completed your hours on Aztec. They're checking that. It's incredibly important that we spend quality time on there. Okay, so it's like we're still waiting on, looks like Andre, Diane, Maria. Send them a couple messages as well. Guys, we're just going to give everyone a few minutes. I'm going to keep reaching out to people. So we've had a few more people join us. Andre as well. Okay. So we'll go ahead and get started. Anybody else who needs to join us, they can join us later on so we don't take up too much of our time letting everybody else log on. So first thing we're going to start with is I want you to give me the formula for slope intercept form, and I would also like you to tell me the formula for finding slope. Okay, perfect. I was just about to reach out to you, Andre. Okay, so first thing we'll start off with, give me the formula for slope intercept form, and give me the formula to find the slope. So go ahead and send me that in the live chat. Oh, only one person responded. So Andre, Mariana, Alma, Sam, where you at? Now, this is why I like the conference call because if now people start tuning out, treating me like a podcast or something. Okay, so I've heard from Sam. Um, she didn't give me slope intercept form. I haven't heard from Mariana. Haven't heard from Alma. Haven't heard from Andre. Slope intercept form and the formula for slope. I'm just asking for that because we're going to need it today. Okay, perfect. So what we'll do now is, so you got it? Yeah. So we'll go ahead and do now is we're going to talk about how you can put something back in a slope intercept form when you only have the slope and when you have an x and y intercept. Okay, so I can see that everybody understands the x and y intercept. So we're going to move on over to the example of how we can put everything back in a slope intercept form. Okay, sorry, it's just message me. Okay, so this is something you're definitely going to be given. Okay, let me move this over a little bit. Okay, so let's say that you want to put something in a, you want to put the following information in a slope intercept form, and you have a line that has a slope, right? So remember these symbols because you're going to see this on the test, and they may not necessarily always tell you what this is. When you see M, you know that means slope. So here's a slope of 4. Okay, so that should tell you that it's 4/1. Okay, and if you'd like to use a conference call feature, let me know. I know that it's Wednesday, and we've been going pretty hard these last couple of days. So if you like to use a live chat, that's fine. But with the live chat, if I'm asking a question and then it's like 5, 6 minutes and no one's really responding, that's what makes me feel like we need to do the conference call so nobody can check out. But again, we're all adults, so if people can participate actively in the live chat, then we don't need to do the conference call. So we know the slope here is going to be 4, and it's going to pass through points -1 and 6. Sorry, it's going to pass through -1 and -6. You can even see that on a coordinate plane. All right. Okay. So with this information, we now want to see what the slope intercept form would be, right? So they gave us the slope, they gave us the ordered pair that they passed through. Now we want to see if we can put it back in the slope intercept form. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to plug this right back into the slope intercept form equation. We're going to plug in all the information we have, and we're doing another equation. So we know the slope intercept formula is y equals mx plus b. So tell me, out of this formula, the slope intercept formula, what information did they just give us that we could plug in? Please respond to that in the live chat. So they gave us a slope. Okay, so we had the slope and we had the ordered pairs. They gave us a slope. Okay, so out of that ordered pair, where does that ordered pair fit into here? So I see everybody understands the slope. Although, am I hearing from everybody? Okay, so this ordered pair represents the x and the y axis. So that can also go in here as well, right? So where do we intercept the y? Okay. All right. Let's just go ahead and use the conference call feature because this is going to end up eating up a lot of time just kind of waiting for people to respond. This is going to be faster. And then I know people can't check out on me. Yes, the y-axis. So the ordered pair here, the y is -6.
Thank you. Conference now. You are currently the only person in this conference.
Okay. So go ahead and let's join the conference call. My goal would be to get us through at least like 2 math standards. We're also going to do a little math, functions review. Okay, so you know it's going to be -6. We know the slope is 4. Now, we don't actually know about the b, right? So we know where crosses the y-axis, but we don't actually know about the x-axis yet. Does this make sense so far? Ooh, who just joined us?
Good morning, Ildi.
All right. Okay, so we can please join the conference call. Okay, so does this make sense so far, Ildi?
No.
Okay, so we know that it's going to cross the y-intercept at -6, right? Because remember the ordered pair, x and y?
Okay, yes.
Okay, so what we're doing is we're going to plug all of this information into our formula. Okay. Now, we don't know. So we know that this is going to be where it's going to cross the y. Now, where it hits the x-intercepts, we don't exactly actually know that yet. Okay. So we're going to take what we know is the slope, and we're going to multiply that by our x-intercept. That's what we're looking for. So we're going to take our slope here and we're going to multiply it by our x-intercept. Because remember, we're trying to find x. Right? So we still don't know what it is. So we're going to represent that unknown with a b. Does that make sense so far to everybody?
Yes.
Okay. So we know that we have the y-intercept. We know what the slope is. We're not exactly sure of the x. They're not exactly giving us the x. So we're going to multiply it by the slope, right? So that we can try to figure out what the x is going to be. And then from here, we're going to combine everything until we get it back into slope-intercept form, right? Question so far?
No question. No question.
Okay. So our -6 is going to come down. And that, okay, is going to equal, well, 4 times -1 is what?
-4.
All right. Now, can we do anything with the b?
No, not.
So we're just going to bring it down.
Yes.
Does that make sense so far?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Okay. So from here, we know we're going to continue to combine like terms until we get to the slope intercept form, right? So we need to get rid of this, right? Because we need to get the y by itself, right? So the easiest way to do that is to do what? We need to get the y all by itself. I wasn't going to say the step, but I want to see if everybody.
No. Get y. Oh, get me by itself. Y.
Well, remember, see how we need to put all of this back into slope intercept form, right? So right now, instead of a y, we have -6. So we need to get it alone,
Do we just solve the equation?
pretty much. So how would you do that?
So we're gonna add 4. We're gonna add -4. I mean, we're gonna add 4. Sorry, to both sides.
Okay, and what does that leave us with?
-2 equals b.
So what does b equal?
-2.
All right. So now that I have all of my pieces, how can I put all of this information in the slope intercept form? I have my slope. I know what the y is, but I don't need that anymore because in slope intercept form, the y is going to represent what the number is that we already know, right? So I want to take all this information and put it back in the slope intercept form.
We're gonna mark -2 on the y-axis.
Well, let's put it into this form first, right? We have all the pieces that we need here. We know what b is. We know what the slope is. We know that we can bring leave y alone. We know where the x-axis, the x-intercept is. So how can we put it all together so that we
can't
can
see the entire board.
Oh, move it up closer.
Farther, I think.
Is that better?
No. Okay. Well, almost. Okay, now it's good. Thank you.
Very welcome. All right. So how can I take all this information now and put it all in a slope intercept form?
-2/1.
Okay. Well, let's start off with the y. Okay. So we have all this information. We know the y is not going to change. I'm only erasing this for the sake of space. Okay. So we know the y has to stay the same to be in slope intercept form. What's my slope?
-6.
My slope is -6?
It's 4. Oh, -2. 4.
4. Remember?
4.
It gave us 4.
4. So an x is -1.
Yeah, and then what's going to be our x-intercept? We just solved for it earlier.
-2.
And that's it. So that's one way that we can take an ordered pair and the slope and combine it all to get slope intercept form. Questions about that?
I don't think I could do it on my own.
That's okay. We're going to do some practice problems. Okay. So then we're going to go over the second way to do it. Then we'll do some problems together.
So when we did the y equals 4x
So what we're doing is we're piecing what they gave us back into the formula. So the reason we're putting the x and the y back into the slope-intercept form is that we know the line has to cross through those points. So if we plug it back into the equation, we're working backwards. Like we're like reverse engineering it because we know that the line has to pass through that ordered pair. Does that make sense? Okay, so let's look at another example. Okay, and this time we're going to use the point slope formula to find the equation of the line that passes through, and the point or the ordered pair is going to be 4 and 3. Ooh, sorry, I'm trying to like write sideways. 4 and 3, and the slope is 2. This makes sense so far? This is our ordered pair. This is our slope. We're trying to find the slope-intercept formula, right? We're trying to find the formula that's going to have us have a slope of 2 and passes through those points. Does that make sense so far?
Yes.
Okay, so I haven't heard from Alma, Mariana, Andre suspiciously quiet. Make sense? Make sense?
Yes. Yes, makes sense.
Go. So here, the first thing we know is we have x1 and y1, right? We don't know what the other one is, but we know we at least have one set of points. Okay, so x1 and y1 is an ordered pair that corresponds to a point on the line, right? It's a slope-intercept form. It's going to help us with the slope-intercept form. So the first thing we're going to do, x1, y1 equals 4 and 3. This much we know, right? So now let's plug this information back into our slope-intercept form. Right? Does that make sense so far? Oh, someone just joined us?
Yes.
All right. So we're working on finding how to put any information, how to put the order pair and slope back into slope-intercept form. So does this make sense so far before we move on?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Okay. Okay. So now we need to start plugging this back into the formula, right? So where is the y here? Right? The y is going to be 3, right? So we're going to say y. Remember, we're trying to get rid of everything to get down to the formula. So we're going to say y minus 3 equals. Now, I'm going to first leave the slope alone. I'm just going to write it as the mathematical symbol for the slope. All right. So because we're trying to eliminate everything to get to the slope formula, we're going to subtract 3 here. And then, if we're subtracting the 3, then we're going to have to subtract the 4 to see what's going on with the x. Right? So this is going to be
Why
a 4.
are we subtracting it?
Because we're trying to get rid of everything to get down to the slope formula.
So n equals I2 minus y1 over 2 minus x1.
So there's 2 methods that we can use. So the first method, you saw how we just plugged in the ordered pair into the formula with the slope. This is another way of doing it where we're basically plugging it back in. Almost the same thing. We're plugging it back in and we're trying to get rid of what these values are so we can get it back in the slope-intercept formula. right? We're trying to make it easy for us to simplify the equation so we can find the slope-intercept form.
Okay.
So does this make sense why we're subtracting it now? We're trying to get rid of it all so we can get down a slope-intercept form, right? Now,
Yeah.
what this really is y minus 3 equals, and we know the slope is actually 2, so we don't need to represent it with that symbol anymore. We can write 2 times x minus 4. If you're kind of getting lost on some of it, I don't mind if you treat it like an algorithm, because we're this late in the game where we're like 50, 16, 17 days away from class finishing. So even if you understand it as like a series of steps, like an algorithm, you'll be fine. Right? So even if you understand, oh, okay, if I want to use example number 2, if I want to use that strategy, I'm plugging in x here and I'm going to subtract it. I'm going to plug in the value for x. I'm going to subtract it from x here. They gave me the slope. I know I'm going to have to multiply all of that by x. And when they gave me the y, I'm going to have to subtract whatever the y is from the variable y. And then it'll make more sense as we start practicing. Because once we get down here, it's another algebraic equation, right? So we need to break everything down so we can put it in y equals mx plus b. So let's see how we can do that. So what's the first thing that we should do? Actually, let me erase this. I'm running out of space. So we know that's the formula we want to use. We have the formula we want to put it in.
We get it off parentheses first.
Okay. So what's that going to become?
So y minus 3 equals 2x minus 2, 6. Minus 6.
Y minus 3 equals 2x what?
2x minus 6. No, 8.
8. There we go. No worries.
Oh, my answer is wrong.
That's all right.
Minus 8. Yes.
Okay. And then where do we go from here?
And then we get it off negative 3 by plus 3 on both sides.
So now we got see how now we got the y by itself? That was our goal the entire time. So now the y is by itself.
And then y equals 2x minus 5.
And that is your answer.
Minus 5. Okay, that is the answer. I got wrong. I write it down.
Questions about that?
No, no question.
No question.
No
Very
question.
hard.
All right. Okay. Okay. So now I know that this is a new concept, and yes, go ahead.
Okay, one question.
Sure.
So these given as an example 1 and example 2.
Yep. 2 different ways to do it.
Either way we can do it.
Correct. That's one of the things you'll notice about algebra. There's several ways to get down to an answer. So with these functions, as long as you can defend what you're doing in the sense that you know why it might be better to use example 2 as opposed to example 1, depending on what the slope is, depending on what the x and y is, then you're fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. All right, so let's try one. Okay. So I'm going to give you what the directions are here. And it says to use the slope-intercept form, right? Which is y equals mx plus b, right? To find the equation of the line that passes through the given point and has a given slope, right? To find the equation of a line with a given slope. Find the equation of the line that passes, line that passes
I didn't
through.
see.
Oh, sorry. Once I'm done writing, I'm basically writing down the same instructions that we had before. I'm just writing it up here so we don't forget it. That passes through the given point and has the given slope. So we know we're going to get the slope. We know we're going to get a given point, and we're going to work backwards to put it in slope-intercept form. Does that make sense so far? Does that make sense so far?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So let's try number 1. And once we start clicking, we don't necessarily have to work through all of them because it's pretty much the same thing. So our ordered pair is going to be 1 and -2. And our slope is -4. So I want you to take this information, put it back in a slope-intercept form. And when you're ready to work it through, let me know. Okay. And then once you're done, let me know and we'll go over it together. Okay. So are we ready to solve? Hello?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
All right. So who can walk us through how we're going to set this up and how we're going to solve it? Okay. Am I talking to myself? What's going on here?
Okay.
Weird.
Nobody. I tried.
Yeah, it's okay if you're wrong. Like I said, it's worse to be quiet than it is to be wrong. Because if you're quiet, then you won't know if what you're doing is right. Okay, go ahead.
So the pair is 1 and -2, which means y -2.
Okay, good. So
Right.
what am I going to be writing down?
Write down -2 equals
Mm-hmm.
-4 is the slope. -4 multiplied by 1.
-4 multiplied by 1.
Yeah. In the parentheses plus the x and plus b.
Okay, yeah, you know what? And yeah, okay. So you can have the x, or you can have the parentheses showing that we're multiplying.
Yeah.
Okay.
And plus b.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And now what?
So now we got -2 equals -4 plus b.
Okay.
Yep.
And then what?
And we plus 4 to both sides to eliminate -4.
Okay. And what's that going to give us?
Now we got b equals +2.
So that's 2. We bring down our b.
2 equals b. Yeah.
Okay. So what are we going to do with that information?
So now we got b, and then we plug in b and slope m to the y formula.
Okay. So what's that going to give us?
So we got y equals
Uh-huh.
-4x
Uh-huh.
-4x plus 2.
That's it. Questions about that?
No question. No question. No.
Okay. Because I know a lot of people weren't really volunteering to walk through it. So was there something that was confusing about it?
It was confusing. The whole thing was confusing to me, but it helped watching how it's being, because I couldn't put the steps together. So helping to watch everybody walking through it.
Oh, okay. All right. So let's try one more problem. And then I'm going to throw in a little curveball. And then I'll actually have you guys take a practice test on all of the functions standards. I'm going to give you a code for ClassKick. We don't have to use a conference call for it because I can give you guys feedback through ClassKick. So let's try one more of these. Let's try the following. So same thing. Let's do it now with -1 and -4. And the slope is going to be 2. And then as soon as you're done, please let me know. And if you're confused, please let me know so we don't spend time where I think we're working and then we're lost. Okay, so are we ready to begin? Hello?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so who would like to walk us through it?
I'll do it. So y equals 2x
Y
times
equals
-1 well,
y equals 2x minus -1.
2x -1 is in the parentheses, so we're going to multiply. So 2 times -1, yeah.
Okay.
Plus b.
So are you using example 1 or example 2?
I believe I'm using the one that we just did, the one before that. So is it, I don't know, 2?
Okay. So remember how we're
Am I
plugging
wrong?
in? Well, I'm not sure exactly where we're going, but let me give you like an easier method. This is why I'm really happy that you spoke up. Okay. So we know that this is the X and this is the Y. So there's a formula we can follow, right? So remember how last time we plugged this in for the Y? Okay, this is the Y coordinate. Let's try starting off with that. So we know this we're going to plug in for the Y. That's going to be -4. What's the
Oh, I
slope?
did that in the next step.
Yeah. What's the slope going to be?
Slope is 2.
Okay, good. And what do we know about that too?
Positive 2.
Yep. And there's something else that we have to do with that slope. We put in the Y. What else do we have to do with the slope? Same thing we did in the last problem. We're going to take that slope.
Multiply it.
Multiply it by
Multiply
what?
with -1.
Perfect. We're going to multiply that by -1.
Yeah.
And what else?
And we're going to add b. We don't know what it is yet.
Good. That's exactly what we're solving for, right? So where do we go from here?
From here we're gonna multiply 2x by negative 1.
Mm-hmm.
That's gonna be negative 2. So negative 4 equals negative 2 plus b. Negative 2 plus b.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're gonna add 2 to both sides to eliminate the 2 from the right side, and b equals negative 2.
Awesome. So now if we put it all back in, what's the slope intercept form going to be?
It's y equals 2x minus 2.
Outstanding. Any questions so far?
And I was clueless in the beginning of the lesson. As I was watching Vesna go through it, and everybody else talking.
Like I said, if you don't speak up and you're quiet, you're going to take my class again, or you're going to take the same class with somebody else. Because if you're not walking through the steps and conceptualizing like what's going on in the problem, there's no way to learn, right? So you're always going to pick it up when you're walking through it and you're speaking and participating. So yeah, like I said, like if you're in the background and I don't hear from you, then there's no way for me to help you. So I mean, and that's why I even have the live chat. So if you feel uncomfortable speaking up, you can always just shoot me a message. You could text me, you could email me. But this right here, algebra is a majority of the test. And functions, what we're doing right now, this is going to apply in so many different areas because we're still doing a lot of algebraic equations. We're still isolating the variable and solving for it. So we're hitting a lot of different math standards. Okay. Good. Good. Okay. So throwing a little bit of a curveball. Let's do fractions. Dun, dun, dun. Same thing, but we're going to be using fractions. Okay. So go ahead and solve this.
Oh, that is negative 4 and negative 2.
Negative 4 and I'm sorry, negative 4, positive 2. My fault. Negative 4, positive 2. Slope is negative 1/3. Then after you finish this one, we'll go ahead and move on into that practice test. So I give everybody enough time to finish. All right, ready to solve?
Yes.
Okay, who would like to walk us through it?
Okay, I go for it.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Y equal 2. So 2 equal
Mm-hmm.
negative 1/3.
Uh-huh.
In the parentheses,
Uh-huh.
negative 4 plus B.
Plus what? Plus B? Okay. And then what are we gonna do from there?
And we multiply negative 1/3 with negative 4. So now we got 2 equal 4/3 plus
Plus what?
4/3. I kind of keep that improper fraction plus B.
Okay, perfect. Okay. Then what?
And now we now 2 minus 4/3 equals B. To get it on the 4/3.
Okay. So minus 4/3. So what is B going to equal?
So now B 2 minus 4/3 equals B.
2 minus 4/3 equals B. Okay.
Now we have to get it off denominator.
Mm-hmm.
3. So we multiply it by 3. 2 multiplied by 3 to get the same denominator as the other one.
Okay, so then now this one becomes 6 because we multiplied on top as well. So we have 6/3 minus 4/3 equals 2/3.
Yeah.
Questions about that?
So, okay. No question?
No questions? Okay, so I'm going to send you guys a link for the practice test. Go ahead and get started on that. I'll be jumping in on the class kick to help you. If you have any questions.
No questions.
Perfect. Okay. And that is all